There we are. We are live. Kev, it's Thursday. We don't normally film on Thursdays, but here we are.
It's a very special day. I hope everybody out there had a great 4th of July. Fireworks everywhere. Fireworks in the house, Nick. A lot of stuff to get to here.
Oh, yeah.
To react to tonight's eviction episode.
I will say this, Kev, like I feel like I have two summers. One is Big Brother centered, right? Then the other is like everything else. And it's like when those worlds collide, I almost like don't know what to do with myself. Like, for example, during tonight's episode, I had a business call that I had to be on, but I had to listen. I wanted to watch so desperately bad that I told everybody while we were doing it that I had another phone call come in and that they'd have to be quiet.
You just got 3 or 4 cell phones pasted to your head, trying to focus on Big Brother. There was a lot to focus on, Nick, so I hope you're able to multitask here today because our boy Victor, as we predicted, out of the house. He was almost unanimously, for some reason, Paul's got like the bro loyalty. Like, oh, I've got to, no wonder Paul could be gone, but we've got Jose, we've got Victor. They've got this week one loyalty to each other, and they're all just getting picked off one by one.
You know, it's actually very reminiscent of the moving company in many ways. They were loyal to each other. Now they're just getting picked off one by one.
Yes.
I mean, this kind of stuff happens, right? And I will say that I learned my season that there actually is no loyalty in the first 5 weeks. So don't even act like there is, right? I think everybody really wants her to be, and everybody wants to play by like, we're boys and like, we're going to do this, but like, there is no trust yet. It's just too soon. But the problem is going inside the house, you just,
I mean, Nick, Paul's all about friendship, right? So who knows? Maybe everything's about friendship for Paul. He's quoting himself now. It's kind of ridiculous. I did want to ask this of you, Nick. Tell me a little bit about what it's like for the house guests as they're sitting there, as fellow house guests are going to the diary room to vote. Because they always have these like pre-planned little celebrations where they're picking each other up Dirty Dancing style and spinning each other around, or they're like they're having a chance to talk to each other and pre-plan that while people are going in the diary room. What is that like?
So I'm going to explain 2 things, actually. What it's like to be in that little setting, right? And then also what that little space is all about. Okay, so when people actually give their speeches, they're always super weird and super awkward because it's like public speaking, right? If you saw Victor's, right, it was like super weird, like what was happening with his like eviction speech. People like think that it's going to be like really great and really awesome, and a lot of times it's just really awkward and weird. And the public usually doesn't understand it because what's happening inside the house, usually those speeches go for them. Now, for the people that are not on the block, aren't giving the speeches, and they're actually going in through that little route to go inside the DR and vote, there's this little hallway. In that hallway, once the door closes, it actually, in the live show, they make it look like it happens really quickly. There's actually a lot more time. There's like, that you're not seeing, where they're like giving you the "you're up next" kind of thing. You give the little head of the nod of the head, and in that space, it is totally soundproof. So when that door shuts, it's soundproof. So like if you screamed in that hallway, you would probably be able to hear it, but you can't really like all the giggling and the high-fiving and the front flipping and like all of the dancing. You can't really hear that or like know what's going on. It's that part's like pretty solid. So I feel like it's in a way, it's like the way that the house guests sort of finally get to express how they really feel without anyone else looking, because you're really closed off from both sides. And you don't get that anywhere else in the house. Everywhere else in the house, at least someone could sneak up on you. Someone could like, sort of like spy on you. So it is in a way, it's like the release room, I guess is a good way of putting it.
The release room. Wow, that's taking on a whole different meaning right there. The release room sounds like fun. Yeah. And speaking of spying, for the house guests, like I'm nervous in my own place that James is lurking here somewhere. So at least that's the one spot that James can't get to them. Now, so should we talk about some of our best and worst? We've got Victor out of the house. We've got Bridget as the new HOH. Category 4 is running the show again. Some of the best and worst moments here from this past week. Nick, do you want to go first? Or
I will. And by the way, okay. Category 4, I called this. I said Category 4 was just going to rock and roll, and they are. I mean, some of the best, smartest players right there, all 4 of them. Okay, here's something that I found really interesting, actually, from last week's episode, kind of bleeding into this one. the whole plan from Victor's plan was to get out Tiffany, right? He was like, I'm gonna go for you. I'm gunning for you. This kind of shows that he hadn't seen a lot of Big Brother, right? There's an extra layer of Big Brother, and that layer is the production layer, right? And so you have to think, look, if production brought in a sibling, right? They went out of their way to do this. They're probably spending a little bit more money. They probably have a little bit more invested. They don't want to let their all-star players go. So don't target the all-star players. I learned the hard way here, people, that you cannot target the all-star players, because not only are you going up against all the fans for maybe like fan favorite, you're going up against production. They're invested. It's a bad move. Pick anyone else. Pick the person who was probably cast and has no clue what's going on and was happy just to like have their face on the show. That's a person you want to target. Not a
yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if Tiffany was going out or one of the returners was going out, and Julie introduced a new twist, and the twist is instead of them going out, Victor, you're now going out because we need to protect our name, house guests. Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I was a little disappointed in Victor's game. I wanted to see him fight a little bit more. He was talking to Julie and just talking about integrity, and he played the game honest. Well, you know, if you want to do that, don't go on Big Brother. Why are you on Big Brother if you're not going to bend the truth and you're not going to, if you're just going to tell everybody everything and be honest? Well, why are you on the show, Nick?
It sounds more like a political speech. I think maybe he got confused. Maybe he thought he was like applying, you know, or putting out like his information for like a Senate seat or like, you know, one of the campaigns. And he thought, I've got it. I'm going to own by being honest. And then he realized he's on Big Brother.
I'm going to throw out another one of my bets here. I'm actually excited to see Bridget's HOH here because she seems like the kind of house guest that wouldn't hurt a fly. I'm really wondering if she's going to have a backbone here or if it's just going to be Frank who is running her HOH. But I'm also excited to see what Category 4 does next, whether they are going to target Tiffany. Maybe it's going to be Paul. But I think it's going to be exciting now that this power alliance of kind of Category 4 with the Paulies and the Franks that are taking control of the game to see what direction they move the game in.
I will predict this, that the strongest person in Category 4 will end up taking the reins, and they will guide the HOH, because one, the HOH Bridget's never been HOH before. She doesn't want that pressure. She also wants to have the fallback of, it wasn't me, it was somebody else. And so I think the person that sees the most advantage, which will probably be Frank, since he's played the game before, he knows how this works. He won't tell her what to do, but he will give her as much advice to take the reins without showing that he is taking the reins.
Yes, and I want to bounce that, Nick. I want to bounce to one of my worst, and I'd like for you to react to this here, because I said last week I was loving the way Frank was playing the game. I'm getting a little bit nervous about my boy Frank right here. I think he's getting a little bit too full of his big brother-ness, and his big brother ego is expanding a little too much. I don't think he needed to tell Paulie about the 8-pack alliance. He could have seen what happened with Tiffany, kept her in the house, waited on that, and then he chose to be the face of this, the face of revealing the 8-pack alliance to Paulie, and then going and telling each person in the 8-pack that he's basically the one that was a little dishonest and was acting in his own best interest. I think he put a huge target on his back, and I don't like that move from Frank. And it's really disappointing because I think he's playing really well. What are your thoughts on that?
I question whether CBS made this a storyline or not. There's a good chance that other people in there may have done the same thing, that we never saw it. Never made it even to like, it could have been some of the live feed cut, or it could have been like kind of stuff that got lost in the live feeds. This may have been a story that was good because it made sense for the storyline of he was dishonest and like he's coming forth, which CBS really likes to do this. This is what they really like to do. They really like to make you think that the story is going one way, and actually when Thursday hits, it's going completely like the opposite. There's a really good prediction of actually how the game is going based on the TV alone by the total opposite of what CBS is making you, trying to make you think.
We're on to you, CBS. We're catching on to what you're doing right here. Yeah. So, Nick, I was going to go ahead. Do you want to throw out one of your best and worst? I got to hear it. Please. Yeah.
So I have a big announcement. While I was in Las Vegas, I contacted Vanessa, and I asked her to be on the show, and she said she'd be happy to be on our Sunday show. So
I like that.
Next Sunday, we will have a special guest, which will be Vanessa.
Very exciting.
Yeah, pretty awesome. So speaking of Vanessa, the one thing about this season is like Tiffany is Vanessa. Like it's like literally like carbon copy. Like the emotional, like the way she cries, the paranoia, like the intensity, the whole thing. And I wanted Vanessa last year to rid that so that she could be more of like a cold Dan, right? And so I just pray and hope that the way the season goes does not go the same as it did for Vanessa.
Yeah. I'm very excited about talking to Vanessa. I can't wait to hear how she thinks Tiffany is doing in the house and to get her take on the show. Very excited for that. I wonder if she's agreeing with some of Tiffany's moves or not. I know that the Russo tears are back this season. Hopefully, strategy is going to come back as well, because I was very impressed with Vanessa's game last year. Hopefully, Tiffany continues to kind of turn on a little bit. So that's very exciting, Nick. I love that. I was going to throw out another one of my worst here from this past episode. The friggin' 8-pack. I mean, Nick, I'm absolutely shocked that an 8-person alliance they're having some cracks here. I feel like this is almost like Inception, where there's 8 people in the room. They're making this 8-person alliance. One of the 8 leaves the room. Now they're like, let's make a 7-person alliance. And then that 7th person leaves the room. Now let's make a 6-person alliance. Now let's make a 5-person alliance. I mean, it's just getting crazy. There's alliances everywhere. It's almost like Oprah, where it's like, you get an alliance, you get an alliance, you get an alliance within this 8-pack. I mean, I have no confidence in this 8-pack moving forward, which is why I'm curious what Category 4 does. I think you're going to see it splinter next week.
So I don't know if you remember, like season 16 was identical to this. Season 17 actually it was very reminiscent. So there was like a 9-person alliance in the beginning. Like I forget what it was called. It was called like the Power 8 or the Power 9 or like just something absurd. Like the 10 that are going to wreck the house. And it's just like, these statistically cannot happen. There's not enough weeks in the summer. Like this is going to fold soon. And so I think really like giving something a name is one of the strategies. Actually, I think it was from Boogie. It might've been Dan. He said, never give an alliance a name, right? Just keep it as is. Because as soon as you give it a name, it becomes a thing. And once it becomes a thing, then people like go after you if it doesn't work out. So like, if they were all smart, they would call it like the loose truce of 8 people.
That's catchy right there. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
no, go ahead.
Oh, well,
I was excited to hear. I thought maybe there was more to that alliance name. I thought we'd keep going, and maybe it'd be like a couple sentences long.
I was gonna say that's all I got. I mean, I think this was the first. I wouldn't say this was like a boring week, right? I think a lot happened, but I think this is one of the first weeks within. I think the first 2 weeks of Big Brother, everyone's excited. People get into it. There's a lot of drama. I think from now until maybe like week 5. We're going to see a little bit of that first little dive, right? Where people are just getting to learn the game. They're kind of going group theory, but I think the game's going to pick up in about 2 weeks. That's my prediction.
I like that. I'm excited. And I was also going to piggyback on your talk about alliances. Did you catch week 1? Michelle said she wanted to make a final 8 deal with this group. That's not a thing, Michelle. There's not a final 8 deal. Let's make a final 16 and start playing the game. Like, there's no final 8. So, yeah, I agree. I don't name the alliance. Just let it be.
Hey, Glenn would have been excited to be a part of that final 8, okay?
Hey, Nick, Glenn might be back. He might battle back, right? He might be back in the house. We'll see.
I would have been excited about a final 8 deal. I would have taken that deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Place is not where you want to be. Let me just tell you.
Yeah. Can I share something that I learned, Nick? Here,
absolutely, Kev.
I learned, and I'm very disappointed by this, and I want to thank Paulie for this. I learned that I have been wearing hats all wrong, completely wrong my entire life. I've either been wearing hats like this, or I've been wearing them like this. But Nick, this is how you have to wear a hat, my friend. You have to have it so far back on your head that you can barely see the top of the hat, and you need to have all of the hair up here. So thank you, Paulie. I've learned how to wear a hat now. It's gonna be like this the whole time, just resting ever so slightly on the back of my head.
don't worry, because after this show is over, you'll be able to buy all of the branded poly gear that will be available. I mean, it'll be California. His last name will be on every shirt, every hat. I'm going to donate $500 in advance just so I can get like a pre-order.
Nick, here's the two things. It's either going to be red Rutgers gear or it's going to be T-shirts that look like you're not wearing a T-shirt. That's basically the poly gear. It's the hat, the red Rutgers shirt, or it would be a T-shirt that looks like you're not wearing a T-shirt. So it's going to be a very small inventory, but I'm down. I'm down to make a purchase.
I'm in, dude. I'm in.
Yeah.
So Kev, where can we find you? I know this was kind of a short episode, but
I love it. Yeah, no.
I think we're gonna know a lot more after this week sort of transpires. I'm looking forward to Sunday with Vanessa. But before I get to that, Kev, where can we find you?
I am at Kev Soup, and the website is kevsoup.com. I turned my air conditioning off because I don't want my hat to blow off, Nick. So it's getting a little hot in here. Maybe that's just all the Big Brother talk. I'm excited to see what happens here this week with Bridget and Category 4, and I'm excited to talk to Vanessa Russo to see what she has to say about this season.
I'm super excited. It's going to be good. Thank you guys for watching. Let us know in the comment section below if you now know the best way to wear a hat, if this is in fact the way you should be wearing hats, and if you think, honestly, that CBS keeps players in the house against the goodwill of the other players.
Wow. Yes, we'd love to hear all your thoughts in the comments section. Please throw them down there. We'll react to them, and we'll be right back here very soon to react to what's happening in the house. Thanks, as always, for watching.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys here in a couple days.